is Hadrian's Wall, or rather, what remains of it today? At first glance, it doesn't look like the edge of an empire, just a low line of stone crossing quiet hills in northern England. Grass grows over it, sheep walk across it, the wind ignores it. But for nearly 300 years, this line divided two different worlds, not Rome and barbarians, order and uncertainty. The wall was not built because Rome was weak. It was built because Rome had reached a limit where expansion stopped making sense. Emperors before Hadrian expanded territory. Hadrian organized it. When construction began in AD 122, Rome already controlled the south. The problem was not invasion. The problem was movement. People crossing, goods crossing, information crossing. The empire did not fear attack as much as it disliked unpredictability. So the wall was not designed to be impossible to cross. It was designed so that no one could cross unnoticed. Seen from a distance in its time, the wall would have looked nothing like the broken stones we see today. It was bright. Fresh limestone facing reflected daylight across the hills. A continuous pale band stretching from sea to sea, nearly 5 meters high in most places, sometimes higher depending on terrain. Behind the front face ran a military walkway protected by a crenellated parapet. Soldiers did not hide behind it. They stood on it. The purpose was visibility, in both directions. Anyone approaching the frontier could see Rome long before meeting a soldier, and soldiers could see movement hours before it arrived. The wall ran roughly 73 miles from the River Tyne in the east to the Solway Firth in the west. Every Roman mile, a gateway. Every third of a mile, a watchtower. From above, it would not look like a barrier. It would look like a measuring instrument laid across the land. This was not a defensive wall in the modern sense. It was infrastructure. Movement entered through gates not because the wall forced it, but because the landscape encouraged it. Travelers preferred roads. Roads led to gates. Gates led to records. Merchants declared goods. Messengers announced themselves. Strangers became known quantities. Rome did not need to chase everyone. It needed everyone to pass predictable points. Control is easier than pursuit. Most days, the frontier was quiet. No battles, no alarms. The routine itself was the security. Morning patrols walked the same routes as yesterday. Signal towers confirmed visibility to the next tower down the line. Smoke, flags, horns, simple communication across distance. A system based not on speed, but on certainty. Because certainty discourages conflict. An enemy prefers chaos. An organized border offers none. South of the wall ran another feature many modern visitors overlook: the vallum, a deep ditch flanked by raised earth banks running parallel behind the wall. This was not built to stop enemies. It separated military space from civilian space. To cross it meant entering Roman administration, warehouses, granaries, supply roads, command areas. The frontier was not a line, it was a corridor, several hundred meters deep. Every movement had meaning. The wall marked the face of Rome. The vallum marked its structure. Along the wall stood forts, not temporary camps, but permanent settlements. Thousands of soldiers lived here year-round. Not legionaries from Rome itself, but auxiliary troops recruited across the empire. Men from Spain, from Syria, from the Danube. They brought languages, cooking styles, religions, and habits with them. Over time, civilian communities grew beside the forts, shops, bathhouses, families. Children grew up in the shadow of a political idea. They did not live at the edge of the world. They lived inside a system designed to define the world. The wall's greatest strength was psychological. It told everyone the same message. Here, rules apply. North of the wall movement depended on landscape and tribe. South of the wall movement depended on administration. It reduced uncertainty, and reduced uncertainty reduces violence. Because most conflict begins with misunderstanding of control. The frontier did not eliminate danger, it clarified it. Centuries passed, repairs were made, units rotated, empires changed leadership. But the logic stayed consistent, not constant warfare, constant management. A functioning border is rarely dramatic. It is repetitive, boots on gravel, ink on tablets, doors opening and closing. The success of the wall was measured in uneventful days, and there were many of them. Eventually, Rome withdrew from Britain. The system stopped being maintained. Stone was taken for churches and farms. Metal removed. Roofs collapsed. Nature returned slowly, not violently. Today, the wall is quiet. When Rome withdrew from Britain in the early 5th century, it did not leave in flames. There was no final battle at the wall, no dramatic last stand beneath its towers. Instead, the system simply thinned. Garrisons were reassigned, supplies stopped arriving, repairs became less frequent. A frontier built on maintenance cannot survive neglect. Stone can endure weather, wood can endure seasons. But systems require intention, and intention had shifted elsewhere. The empire's attention turned inward, toward instability, toward politics, toward survival closer to the Mediterranean heartland. Britain became distant, and distance weakens structure. The wall did not fall in a single moment. It softened. Timbers rotted. Metal fixtures were removed. Watchtowers lost their roofs. Grass began to root where soldiers once stood. The walkway that had carried patrols became a place for wind. Over time, local communities adapted to the absence of Rome. The wall was no longer a border between administration and wilderness. It became a quarry. Stone is practical. Cut blocks that once signaled imperial authority now held farmhouses together. Gateways that once filtered movement now framed sheep pastures. The physical material survived. The political idea dissolved. Yet something of the system remained. Even when its military function faded, the geography it imposed continued to influence settlement patterns. Roads laid out for control became trade routes. Fort sites became villages. The line across the landscape persisted, even if its purpose had changed. This is the paradox of infrastructure. It begins as power. It ends as environment. The people who reused the stones did not think of themselves as dismantling an empire. They were building barns, chapels, cottages. For them, the wall was not Rome. It was material. Centuries passed. Kingdoms rose and fell across Britain. New rulers drew new borders. But none matched the scale and clarity of that long Roman line stretching from sea to sea. In time, memory replaced experience. The wall became a story, a relic, a curiosity for travelers. Romantic ruins in a green landscape. But ruins can mislead. They suggest collapse. Hadrian's wall was not primarily a battlefield. It was an instrument of administration. And administration is rarely remembered with drama. It is remembered, if at all, as order. To understand the wall fully, we must resist imagining constant conflict. Most days were procedural. Soldiers recording names, inspecting cargo, lighting signal fires at dusk. The frontier functioned through repetition. Repetition builds expectation. Expectation builds stability. and stability reduces violence. The wall did not need to stop armies every week. Its power lay in discouraging unpredictability. A trader approaching from the north would not see chaos. He would see structure. A visible system. Visible systems change behavior. They create pause. They create negotiation. They create predictability. The Roman frontier in Britain was not a panic response. It was a calculated expression of governance. Emperor Hadrian traveled extensively across the empire. He saw borders not as edges to be conquered endlessly, but as lines to be defined and maintained. In that sense, the wall reflects a philosophical shift, from expansion to consolidation, from ambition to management, from conquest to control. The presence of the vallum behind the wall reinforces this interpretation. It created depth. Depth transforms a line into a zone. Within that zone, Roman authority was not merely symbolic, it was operational. Warehouses stored grain, roads carried supplies, officers issued orders. It was not an isolated military installation, it was a working corridor. Imagine standing on the wall in the 2nd century, looking north, rolling hills, scattered tribes, movement defined by landscape, then turning south. Roads aligned with intention, structures arranged with geometry, logistics planned. Two systems facing each other. The wall did not claim moral superiority. It imposed predictability. Predictability attracts trade. Trade attracts settlement. Settlement attracts permanence. For nearly 3 centuries, that permanence held. Generations of soldiers rotated through the forts. Some returned home. Some never did. Letters discovered in archaeological excavations reveal ordinary concerns, requests for warm socks, invitations to birthday celebrations, complaints about weather. These fragments remind us that the frontier was human before it was political. A soldier watching the horizon was not thinking of grand strategy every moment. He was thinking of shift changes, of rations, of the next patrol. Routine builds durability, and durability builds reputation. Rome's reputation was not based solely on its legions. It was based on its systems. Hadrian's wall symbolized that system, visible, measured, maintained. When Rome withdrew, it was not because the wall failed. It was because the empire retracted its administrative reach. The frontier did not collapse under assault. It dissolved under redirection. There is a difference. Collapse is violent. Dissolution is gradual. In dissolution, memory fades before stone falls. Today, when visitors walk along the remaining sections, they encounter silence. But that silence is layered. Beneath the grass lie foundations of towers. Beneath the soil lie traces of hearths. Beneath the quiet lie records of transactions and watch schedules long forgotten. Archaeology does not simply uncover artifacts, it reconstructs systems. And through digital tools and careful study, we can approximate how this frontier once breathed. Not as a battlefield, but as an organism, structured, rhythmic, alive. To call it merely a wall is to misunderstand it. It was an interface between empire and landscape, between authority and adaptation, between visibility and uncertainty. Every frontier defines not only what lies beyond it, but what lies within. South of Hadrian's wall, Roman Britain functioned with clearer parameters. North of it, autonomy persisted in different forms. The line did not erase difference, it organized it. Modern borders often appear abrupt, barbed wire, concrete barriers. Hadrian's wall was subtler. It allowed passage, but on Roman terms. That distinction matters. It demonstrates a confidence in administration over brute obstruction. The wall did not attempt to seal Britain off from the north. It attempted to regulate interaction. Regulation creates memory. Memory creates identity. For almost 3 centuries, inhabitants of Roman Britain knew where Rome ended and where it began again. That knowledge shaped behavior, shaped economy, shaped perception. Over time, the clarity of that line faded. Stone sank, towers disappeared, fields expanded. But the contour remained visible from above, a faint geometry across hills, a reminder that organization once stretched here deliberately, and that reminder persists even when its function does not. Today, the wall is quiet because its purpose succeeded long enough to be forgotten. What remains is not a ruin of defeat. It is a trace of organization. Hadrian's wall was never meant to be the end of civilization. It was meant to make civilization visible. And for almost 3 centuries, it did. The towers are gone. The plaster faded into the soil. The gates stand open to fields. What remains is not the ruin of failure, but the trace of organization. And for almost 3 centuries, it worked. Thank you for watching. May we wake up somewhere else next time.